Hello everyone, welcome to VRoid and Blender Part 8. This tutorial is going to be about cloth physics. One of the first things that I need to tell you is to make sure that you go over here to the material panel. If you didn't already, make sure that backface culling is unchecked. You need it so that you can have a two-sided material, so just make sure that you've already done that. One of the first things that we're going to do here is actually take this, and I'm going to press hide on here, and I'm going to go into wireframe mode. I'm going to take this, plus shift, control P. I'm going to parent this to with automatic weights. And the reason for this, I'm going to press double A here to deselect and apply, is that I am applying the armature to this right here to make sure that all of the bones that we removed last time, that all of the proper weighting is applied before we do all the cloth physics. And this is important because it's very easy for when you have two different meshes for the mesh to go through it. And there are a lot of different ways that you can approach it, because the mesh ultimately is probably going to go through the clothing or whatever it is that you have through it. And so you can approach the problem several different ways, which is why we actually sculpted this. If you notice here, a wireframe, and again, these are settings that you can work with in VRoid, but there's the arms and the shoulders, they're just straight up gone, you know, and so there's no collision detection right here. And we'll talk about that roughly here in a minute, but this is just to save ourselves a little bit of time and effort and make sure that it works. So what we're going to do here is that now that we have that, I'm going to go here into wejustcan'tclickyou.com, and so go here into pose mode, and I'm going to press here I, the location rotation scale, go over here to 100, press it again, and then that's an entire animation we're going to make here. And the reason we're doing this is so that we can tell exactly how the cost simulation is going to act. And I'm just going to go here, just throw these legs in the air like they don't care, and go like this and this. Okay, so now maybe I'll tilt the spine a little bit back, you know, something like that. Throw his neck out, you know, something equivalent. And so now we have a little bit of an animation here. We're just trying to test how the cloth physics are going to act. We want to see how, whoa, we're over here in this. If you accidentally go past, you just right click on it, just press G, you can move it over here. You can also set what frame you're going to be on, by the way, obviously over here. So then you can kind of look at here, and then here you can see, hey, this is already sticking through, so it's potentially going to be a problem. And again, there's a lot of different ways that you can approach dealing with this. So yeah, and again, my mouse button is being a little finicky here, so if you hear some clickety-clacketing in the background, that's just me moving the camera around, you know, so just straight up ignore that. Now, next part, we're going to do this, right? So I'm going to go back over here to frame 0. I'm going to press 1. And now I'm going to hide this mesh again. I'm going to hide his beautiful face and the hair. Now, it's not necessary, but just for the illustration of this, I'm going to go into, well, select it first, go into weight painting. Now, I'm going to go over here, and there's all these different weight paints, okay? This is like for each part of the body. And I'm going to go all the way down here. Now, I have these. These are ones that I've already done. But we're going to create a new one. Press plus and go. This is, I don't know, cloth. I'll call it cloth because why not? Now, over here, if you press the end panel, You can go to add, darken, blah, 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 blah. Who cares? And there's symmetry as well here. It works for you. And there's a bunch of things to mirroring and whatnot I'm not going to get into. We'll just pretend that things work and that you're not going to have to change settings, and we're just going to ignore all these things right now. But this is add, this is subtract. So when you add, and this is the strength is down here right now, okay? So this is add. When it comes to clothing simulation, your blue is your friend, and red is your pinning. Imagine it to be like, you know, you're holding a piece of cloth in the air, and this is your pinning. This is what stays stable, you know, stable diffusion. It works. So that's add, and this is subtract. So that will be, you know, subtract. And you can blur it, you can smear it, you can do all this kind of stuff. And that is what tells the bones that are underneath here where to move, basically. It says, hey, this is your area of influence that you need. Now, the easiest way to weight paint and doing the pinning here, make sure you're on add, is that you're going to take this and you're just going to go like this. Now, I'm going to make sure that it's red kind of all the way to here, like this, all right? So now we had that, and this is our cloth group. Now you can tell here, this is doing some different tests before this because I wanted to make sure I could get some settings that were really easy for everyone to understand. I was just playing around with them. So this here, again, just a nice soft kind of gradient, and you can see, hey, it goes around the entire model here. And then again, if you wanted to subtract, you could just do it that way with the subtract button. Well, brush rather. So now I'm going to go back here into object mode. I'm going to press Alt-H here. Now, you can add collision to the face, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you want to stay here for frickin' forever. So you're going to go over here to what's called the physics tab. Now, collision obviously is what tells Blender, hey, you should totally collide with me, and you should pay attention to what I'm doing. So I'm going to click on the body here. I'm going to press collision. Now, typically, especially when it comes to clothing, you want that inner to be down, like super down here, because this is what says, hey, interact with me at like the lowest thing possible. Just do it. And so we'll just leave the hair and the face alone. Again, you could play with those settings if you really want. Now, the reason especially that we're using pinning, besides the obvious, is that, again, there's a giant cavity. We don't have any shoulders. We just don't. So it's really important that we use that pinning group, because otherwise it'll just... You know what? I'll show you what happens. I'm not trying to use cloth in that one. Cloth. So down here, I'm going to press 100 because, you know, if I don't, it'll just go to 250, and then that'll be exciting rendering frames that I don't want to have. So, you know, let's sit here for a second. All right, this is without the pinning, obviously. So I'm going to go over here. If we press the space bar, you can see, hey, this is not a good experience. So, you know, our noodle arms over here, there's nothing there. We get glove arms instead. So we can delete this bake. And if we go over here to the pin group and cloth, that's what I called it, cloth. I can bake it again. And this time, we'll see some minor improvements in theory. So now you can see that the cloth's being applied. And we had this now. It's actually working. Huzzah! Alright, so I'm going to delete this bake. Now, baking is a very important part of cloth physics. I know I'm not necessarily explaining everything as I'm going here, but I think that the previous tutorials that I've made have already kind of explained a good significant portion of the things that I'm talking about right this particular second. Baking is what you need to do to make the physics work. That's all I'm going to explain. Now, in terms of these settings, if you hover over it, you'll get information about each setting. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you think about it, tension, how much the material resists the stretching. In this particular case, this is, kind of more of a silk-ish material. So I can turn down the mass here. I can, change the viscosity of it. I can bring down the tension. I can bring down the compression. And then, the damping. There's just all different kinds of, settings that you can change. I would recommend that you go through it. I can change the quality of the collisions as well. There's so much to go through, and I recommend that you just sit down and play around with it in this particular case, just because it really is self-explanatory, and Blender just follows kind of the sense of real-world physics and stuff. So I would recommend that. I do plan on later on probably really sitting down and just giving some settings for different types of materials, but this will be later on. So I would just say look forward to that in the future when I'm able to. So now that I've changed it, you can see, hey, there's a little bit of change. Now I would note here as well, and again, I'm not going to get too advanced into cloth physics in general right now. I'm just getting kind of a basic overview here. The amount of polys that you have is going to impact how your model is in terms of the cloth physics. And there's a lot that you can do to make that a lot easier if the clothing that you have has more polys and it takes longer to bake. But again, if you're really more interested in that topic right now and you're not willing to wait for me to do larger topics, which I will be doing, you can always search on YouTube for more information about that. But just do keep that in mind, that more polys you have, the longer it is going to be to bake. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to enable the self-collisions. So self-collisions are a really important part of, cloth in general, just because it's just realistic, And again, I turned up the quality here, but you can take the quality of the cloth to here, to 10, say, and then you have internal spring, you get the pressure, and then to further that, there's a bunch of stuff like the gravity, force, there's all different kinds of things that you can add. The force fields of wind, there's just all different kinds of things that you can add that will affect the physics of the cloth that you have. So this is just an added bit of information just for the future that we'll be going into, just FYI, that exists. And so there's also there's so much that I'd love to go into, but again, let's go ahead and bake this here, and you'll get to see kind of more of that self-collision. Again, there's not a lot of this, but I may divide it here to show you kind of what it's at a higher percentage. Polys percentage, more polys, close enough. So you can see here, the quality's gone up, and now we're having a little bit less rougher of those edges there. Now hold on just a moment here, and I'm going to pause here. I'm going to save. And I'm going to go in object mode. I'm going to press W. I'm going to subdivide. Now you could use different modifiers to make this happen, but I'm going to delete that bake, and I'm going to bake it again. After adjusting some settings and whatnot, I went through, make sure if you have self-collision, sometimes you may need a vertex group. So applying this cloth group stands for, you can also do again the internal springs. So like I went through, I adjusted some of the mass and the viscosity as well for this. And so as you can see here, there's adjustment here as well, so you can see some of the quality here has gone up because there's more polys to work with as well. Now, as you can see, again, here, there's this sticking out. Now, there's a wide range of things we can do. First, we need to determine, hey, why or what is happening here. So we can go over here to the vertex groups, and over here, obviously, it's like the chest and the upper chest here and the spine. And you can see here with the weight painting, hey, this is what's sticking out, and we can go through with our weight painting, and we can go down here to the, add, and we can change the weighting. The thing is that we may not necessarily want to do that because we don't want to change the weighting of everything else. So there is a fairly simple solution, and if you want to do the weight painting, you want to work through this, you want to take the time, you can do it. You can make it a little bit better. You could do this, or you can do sculpting. So you can go back here, say to the frame 0 here, and you can go over here to sculpting, and just use, say, grab or whatever, and you could just kind of adjust it and then go do the baking again. And you may be a little more successful in terms of the, body not sticking out. You can make those adjustments and it'll be a little bit easier. But another thing that you can do besides hiding this is that you could just straight up hide the body itself. Now, I would just go through, and this is a very old trick. Instead of deleting the mesh, just make a new material, just be like alpha or something. And you want to go over here, you want to press this, because this makes it so that you're selecting both sides. And it's also transparent, so you could just go through, press B, select, this good portion here, like this, right? And you want to assign this material. Let's say we'll make it blue or something. This is what's going to be your baseline. And then you could just go over here to alpha clip. And then we could just go to alpha. We put that all the way down here. Okay. And you can see here, this is, all the way down. Or we could do it right here as well. So you could kind of test it out, see how it looks as far as what you're going to do. So you can press Alt-H here, and then you just look it through, and you could tell, hey, with the line that's going through, and then you can have that so that that's not going through right there, Now, let's say that you didn't have access to, that you wanted to be able to model basically what was underneath. Let's say that you didn't have the original, files for this or whatever, or you just wanted to be able to essentially make this underneath, okay, the collision that's underneath here. So I'm going to hide this. So I'm going to go over here, kind of over here to this panel, and I'm going to make kind of a little bit of our world scene here, so maybe a little bit of blue because I like to actually add a little bit of color to the environment like I previously stated. Alright, now I'm going to press Shift A and I'm going to make a circle. And the reason I'm using circles is because it's pretty easy. And I'm going to go back into edit mode because what we're going to do here is we're actually going to build a torso for our buddy here because he really needs a torso. And there's no collision for him, so that's what we're going to do, is basically build that for him. And we're going to model that for him, and it's not going to be too hard. You may think to yourself, oh, it's hard. No, we're going to be fine. So I'm just going to delete that right here. This right here, because we want a nice little middle line. Here, this makes it easier for us to model. So I'm going to press Shift D. Alright, and rotate this. And this is going to be for his fantastic arm bit, really. And I'm going to make this another Shift D. Rotate this. And again, and down. And I'm actually going to go like this. Now, I'm keeping this on the outside just for the second, just because it's kind of a guide to basically what things are. Now, normally in modeling, you would be actually paying more attention to things on, this side and whatnot. But since I'm using this as the guide from the front, that's why I'm ignoring this at the moment. So I'm just trying to line this up. And secondly, you'd be doing extruding, but we're not doing that at this second. So let's just pretend that we're doing things the normal way when we're not. So now that I have that here, all right, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go into this mode, which is edge mode. All right, because this is an edge that we're doing. All right, pressing Control and plus to select this, or I could just press B and then Control plus in case, for some reason. I'm going to press Control D, and I'm going up here. I'm going back over here, and then I'm pressing Control 8 actually to go up here, and not thinking that he looks like the Joker every single time that I see teeth like that. And I'm going to go right here, and then pressing S to make it smaller, and I'm rotating this because I just want it to kind of line up with the neck here. Now, I am now going to take the cloth here and go like this. Now, I'm going to take this, and I'm taking it and I'm selecting half of this because I want to delete it. Delete half of that. And I actually want to double check here because I think, good, it's good. All right. So we're going over here to the modifier panel, and we're going to the mirror tool. I'm pressing clipping. This is going to mirror the other side, obviously. That's why it's called mirror. Really. Truly an astute observation. But the mirror tool is so that we can do it on one side and it will do it on the other side for us and it'll be perfect. And that's what we want, is perfection. So now that we're kind of here, I want to go right here like this. All right. Now, there are a lot of different ways to do modeling, and you can do whatever you want, really. It's whatever you want it to be. And if you go into the vertex mode here, I don't get them scaling up here. You can pretend that it works. All right. If you press 4, you're on this. All right. You can. Oh my goodness gracious! We're just zooming. All right. So if you go here and you select these and you press F, like I talked about in the other tutorial here, you can individually select these faces, and then when you go in here into the viewport shading, whatever, and then you took this off because I had it on earlier, then you have this, all right? And then you pretend that you're not doing that. And then you could just, go like this if you really wanted to, or you could do it individually. There's ways to fill the gap as well. Hold on just a moment. If you press Alt and Shift, do this. You can press F and it's going to fill these. We don't want these filled specifically. That's not what we want filled because we're actually going to be, well, technically we're going to be filling them later, just in a different way. So if you go down to base here and you go to grid fill, but this will make it so that you can fill those faces really quickly. So the reason that I'm doing it this way instead of normal modeling is just because it's easier for people who have maybe never modeled to do it this way. It's a clean way to do topology, which is basically how the edge of the mesh flows. This is really important for animating, and I know you'll all be like, what is even topology? And that's an entirely different subject. You can Google that word. But I'm going to line up the center here. I'm going to press F. This is the armpit here and this. So I'm just kind of making sure that these connect together here, and then I'm going to go face and grid fill. So now you can see here, hey, I've got that. All right, now topology. All right, let's get in here. So topology is the flow of the mesh, like I just said 2 seconds ago. This is very important to understand, all right? So a lot of bases, like you see here, all right? We're gonna look at actually one inside this on there, all right? This is how your mesh flows, all right? It's going down this direction. It's going this, and it's going this way. It's going this way. It's going this way. And they're all even, all right? There's quads, which is 4. There's 4 sides, all right? And then you have trees, which is 3 sides, okay? So that's the, this is the trees, and then the 4. It's just 4 sides. It's the quads, all right? So the way that your mesh flows is really important, because when your mesh bends, then how it animates is really affected by it. And so it will deform terribly if you do not have the correct topology. And so that's why we're building the mesh this way, because I'm adding these loops in the correct places, because like right here, this elbow area is incredibly important. We want to make sure there's enough polys and enough loops here, because that's what these are. They're loops. Is this? That's why down here. That's why we have this information. We put down these loops here, is so that when the arm bends, then it actually looks good instead of terrible. And this is even important for collisions, especially because then your cloth is deforming over the body correctly. And that's what we want, especially when we're making clothing, is that it looks natural. Even if we're making something that's cartoon-like, anime, whatever, that it deforms correctly, so that the viewer, when they're watching something, is drawn into the world, that they can kind of let their mind go for a little while, that they can enjoy whatever it is that they're watching. So let me go ahead and erase this here for a second. So now normally we do what's called extruding, which is when we press E, and then we're just extruding it. You press S, and we're scaling it, okay? Now I'm going to go over here into the 7, which is the top view here. I'm going to press 1. And I'm going like this. Alright. Now, this, for the record, or does not have, this is not filled. So, when we were talking roughly a bit ago about the beginning here, about things being single-sided or one-sided, that if you don't set it properly, you want to have this filled right here. Okay. Normally this would be connected to that, but we're not really too worried about this. This is just to prevent the cloth from going, this is a hole, and treating it that way. So we're just going to go like this. It's not going to be as smooth as we want it. We can change that, of course, by like sculpting it or moving it around. Like I can go, hey, and again, I like to use the grab tool a lot just because it's easy to use. And Son likes things that are easy to use because her brain is an ADHD brain, and that is why I do it. So now we kind of have this here. Now again, I'm not going to close these loops yet. All right, so now we've got these super interesting underarms here. All right, but now I want to connect these. Connect 4. I'm going to remove the face and the hair. Connect these again here. And I'm kind of counting by going like this. And you know what? If you don't get it right or exact, well, who cares? Because this is really just for the collision underneath. Now, I'm going, well, whatever happened to our circle underneath? Mayhap. Well, I don't know what happened to it. It's gone into the beyond, I suppose. Well, we're just going to make another one, I guess. I don't know what happened. Where'd it go? I don't know. Well. Let's just pretend we know what happened to it. I don't know. What is? Go. Well, you know what? Who cares, I guess. Maybe when I press shift duplicate, it never happened. We'll just assume that maybe it is there. You know what? I'm gonna blame ghosts. You know what? That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna blame ghosts. That's what I do. Halloween may be over, but my life isn't. So, you know. Either way, we needed another circle. So, let's just take it for all it's worth. All right, I'm going back over here into vertex, and make the most out of a situation here, and go in mirror. And clipping is so that when you try to move away, it sticks to you. And if you don't have the clipping on, then it will it'll go like this. So clipping is really important when it comes to mirroring, because otherwise it's rough. It's just tough. And so it's just better that you have that on. So just do it that way. So we're just going to build kind of here. And in order to join both these messages, actually, you can go like this and you press Control J, and ta-da! You have these stuck together. Now, I'm going to do a very dangerous thing indeed, since apparently now we can... Now it's going to maybe work. I don't know. Far be it from me to decide what's going to work and what isn't, you know. So, press F here. Okay. And then we're just going to shift. Okay, not. Alt shift. I'm gonna grid fill. Oh my goodness gracious, what a day. You know what? Excuse me, I'm sorry I didn't put an edge, put a face over there. My goodness. It's just one of those days. All right. So now I'm going to press the almighty grid fill. All right. You have to make sure that it's closed on both sides. Otherwise, it's just going to go nope like it did to me. That's what I get. All right. So now I'm going to go over here into the sculpt mode. Try to sculpt a little bit of the back here and just kind of act like it's going together. And you can use the smooth tool. This is also one of the other good sculpting tools. And you can use the cloth kind of here again as guidance and just use the grab tool. Now the one thing I love here too is that you have the area of influence. And yes, you can do this with other tools. There's, you know, an area of influence that you can do with the regular blending and sculpting tools that you can adjust. You can choose to learn about a lot of the different tools that Blender has because you can choose the area of influence right here. Like this is proportional editing here. And you could do that and you can use like connected only. You could choose this, you know, you can move it around like this, or you could just go into sculpt mode and press grab. So, you know, you can do that. It's really up to you to determine how you want to learn or how you want to use Blender, because ultimately you can use whatever techniques that you want, even if they're kind of hijacked, you know, techniques. You can still use them, you know, and there's no wrong way to do it. You can just do whatever you want. And even if people go, hey, that's not the right way to do things, you can just go, well, I don't care. And I think that's how you should, you know, approach learning. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to learn. It's okay if it's, you know, not perfect. Now, I'm going to make it a little bit easier on myself here and hide this armature. All right, so I've connected here at the back, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to go ahead and connect these on the side here as well. You'll see there's this giant space right here. Now I'm going to press Control R. I'm going to solve my problem right now and create this line. And I'm going to press this actually over here, the vertex. And now I'm going to be over here, right here. Actually, I'm going to go to the top. And I'm going to extrude this by pressing E. Up here, here, and here. Press F. Now, not everyone likes to do things this way. Alright, now everyone could do modeling this. But this is just so that, again, topology that we talked about earlier. Again, you don't have to do things, but be very careful when you're doing this because, again, you can select things straight away and it can become very annoying. So I'm going to just real quickly here, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Now I have a lot of quality of life things on, so the way that I have it may not work according to what you have installed. So the way that I have things selected, it may not act according to how you have Blender to set up, just so you know. But I'm going to move this over just so that the armpit actually works a little bit better here. Right here, I'm just actually planning my topology. You don't need to go as slow as I'm going. I'm purposefully just planning things. I'm going slowly. Now I'm using Shift and K kind of like what we did before. I'm actually just turning. And this is actually making this, so I'm making a nice loop here so that we can connect it properly. I'm making a nice loop. Now again, this is not something that you need to do, it's just something that I'm personally doing. When you are doing Shift K, you only want to select the faces that you are doing it. You can make sure that you get to ones that you're doing. Like this, so you make sure that you're going to that. And then this, normally, here you go. I'm going to get rid of that real quick here. Go into sculpt mode, and then you can smooth this. While you're modeling, if you press R and then just do the scroll wheel, you can go like this and then count as many as you want. If you're doing this, you can also press F if the grid fill doesn't work. You can go to face and you can go triangulate faces. You can go for trees or quads. It may look good, may not. That's why I prefer to do it by hand, because the topology can, be good or bad. The reason why I'm doing this so slowly and carefully is just because I'm more or less just showing you kind of some good techniques about, being more specific. I'm allowing myself to kind of just, along. It's all good for me, So if you want to do this and you say trees or quads and then you decide, well, hey, that sucks, you could just kind of go here and go, all right, well, that didn't work out, right? And you could technically go like this, just get rid of those faces here, and then just select those edges here and do any necessary merging or whatever it is that you wanted to do to fix that. It's, entirely up to you. As you can see, I went and I smoothed this topology right here. And then I just, anything that you didn't get, again, I'm not paying too much attention to this topology, just mainly because this is going on the underside. And I filled these just to make sure that it could go underneath. And taking this cloth here, I'm going to go here in the sculpt mode and just make sure this is kind of in here. So you could do whatever it is that you want to do to make it look good. So now I've gone here and I've added a little material here. And this is just kind of what it looks like here. Into this. Now we want to make sure that we have enough edge loops here for the collision. So now, I'm just adding a few more edge loops. And I'm not paying too much attention to how many polys I'm doing, because I really don't care anymore. Instead, I'm going to go over here to the object, and I'm going to go to apply. Now I'm going to go back to the armature, which I hid earlier. Alright. And I'm going to save it, because we want to make sure we save it, and I would make another copy here. So go ahead, take this, and then, right, shift, control P, automatic weights. You could see under here, you could do this, but just double A here. And you should have this, it'll move along with the armature, because and it's got all of the necessary verts. Oops. Alright. So you have all of this, alright? Now you need to go over to the collision. You set this collision. You want the internet. It's not single. It is single-sided, actually. That was a lie I was about to tell you. But this is what I was talking about earlier about if you did not fill in the holes, that you would have problems. So that's actually what I was trying to say, is that you want to make sure it was that. So you can stay on single-sided, but you want to pull down the inner because this is how closely it can get to the mesh, just so you know. The gift of gab is it's just not with me today, but that's all right. So now I'm going to go back here to, we're going to unhide everything, and we can kind of go back here to our clothing here, and if we want to, we can go and sculpt, make it thinner, whatever it is. I would name it something else, like, mannequin, I don't know. Whatever suits your fancy. And so that way it can kind of give you a little bit of that bulk that you might have wanted and or / needed. Because you're going to the gym apparently. So I'm just going to take a moment here. I'm going to add a little bit so it's a little bit better here. And thankfully, symmetry gods are with us, so we are here, and the symmetry is decided is going to work. So I'm just pushing this back in so that you can kind of see, hey, the still back here. And then that way we're still getting a little bit, and then we're still getting here. That way you're still getting the... Oh my goodness, he has a noodle arm. What a wonderful, wonderful noodle arm. He doesn't have any bones at all. But let's just ignore that. Let's just pretend that isn't the case. Alright. So, what I'm actually going to go back over here in the material now is I'm just going to shove down that alpha and change it to alpha clip. So now the material is completely transparent. You could also do it so that it's not in the disabled in the viewport and it's disabled in the render. But I'm just doing the alpha because I can. So that's the way we're going to roll. So I'm going to put the cloth back on here. And I'm going to go over here to the physics. And we're going to bake it. Also, before you bake, just make sure that you take off the pin group. So that you can get the full effect of whatever is going to happen. Now, you're about to behold something most beautiful. And I just want you to know that I didn't change any of my settings, which means this is fantastic. So, I want you to know that this beautiful, beautiful thing that's happened here is because of collisions. So, you still... This is going to be the most amazing, most chic design ever. I really do believe that this belongs on, a design somewhere. I really do think so. So, in lieu of that fact, now I did go back here under my object of self-collisions and ditch my self-collisions while I'm at it. And if you'll excuse me while I do some more baking that'll take forever, I'll be back. Now, when we take off the self-collisions, you can tell, hey, how the collisions have now, underneath, self-collisions have now stabilized a little bit. Now, of course, I do recommend that you add a little bit of pinning to the top of this in this particular case. As a quick side note, before you do that, make sure that there's a hole in the sleeve on both sleeves. Otherwise, the cloth will get mangled because it needs to go, oh, hey, there's cloth here. Otherwise, it'll just jitter against it, which is absolutely hilarious. And I totally forgot about it, but just to note, be sure to do that. Alright, so to explain what I've done here is that this is the, I turned it to purple here, but I filled in the, this just using the F key. I filled in the sides of this right here, and I filled in underneath here because we want to make sure that the collisions can't be messed with here. And so we've done that. I filled in the top here, and so that way when the cloth and everything it comes together, it doesn't have any problems. So here, now I'm not using any pinning with this, to be clear. So it's not getting the top of the head or anything right here. So I can improve this along with the collisions as well by adding the pinning that we were talking about. So I'll go ahead and do that here. But now you can see with the hole that I added here, we're having a little more cohesion. But we can continue to improve this by adding those small little changes as we continue through our project. You know, I don't want to add too much more time to this video, so I'm just going to leave it here just for the sake of the length, because I've gone on for a pretty, long time at this point. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them below. We will be going more into the finite little things with clothing and more tutorials. So thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it. I'm going to do a few little things here, and thank you again for watching, and hope you have a wonderful day. So now I've gone here and I've added a little material here, and this is just kind of what it looks like here. I've also added the smooth here. That way you go through, you can use the smooth. And with the smooth, by the way, kind of works like this. It's a little bit odd, and the modifier is still applied, so it's mirroring it. But you can kind of move it back and forth like this, and it will kind of make the smoothness kind of go up. Now, with this, you go one into this. Now, we want to make sure that we have enough edge loops here for the collision. So now, I'm just adding a few more edge loops, and I'm not paying too much attention to how many polys I'm doing, because I really don't care anymore. In this particular case, just because this is the collision that I'm going for the body. And I can take these right here, I could merge them like this, go through this, at center, merge them, or I could do this for the topology. I can make it look good if I really wanted to. But instead, I'm going to go over here to the object, and I'm going to go to apply. Now I'm going to go back to the armature, which I hid earlier. Alright. And I'm going to save it, because we want to make sure we save it. And I would make another copy here. So go ahead, take this, and then, right, shift, Control P, automatic weights. You could see under here, you could do this, but just double A here, and you should have this. It'll move along with the armature, because and it's got all of the necessary verts groups. Alright, so you have all of this. Alright, now you need to go over to the collision. You set this collision, you want the in and out. It's not single, it is single-sided actually. That was a lie I was about to say. But this is what I was talking about earlier, about if you did not fill in the holes, that you would have problems. So that's actually what I was trying to say, is that you want to make sure it was that. So you can stay on single-sided, but you want to pull down the inner, because this is how closely it can get to the mesh, just so you know. The gift of gab is it's just not with me today, but that's all right. So now I'm going to go back here to, we're going to unhide everything, and we can kind of go back here to our clothing here, and if we want to, we can go and sculpt, make it thinner, whatever it is. I would name it something else, like, mannequin, I don't know. Whatever suits your fancy. And so that way it can kind of give you a little bit of that bulk that you might have wanted and or slash needed. Because you're going to the gym apparently. So I'm just going to take a moment here. I'm going to add a little bit so it's a little bit better here. But thankfully, symmetry gods are with us, so we are here, and the symmetry is decided is going to work. So I'm just pushing this back in so that you can kind of see, hey, the still back here. And then that way we're still getting a little bit, and then we're still getting here. That way you're still getting the... Oh my goodness, he has a noodle arm. What a wonderful, wonderful noodle arm. He doesn't have any bones at all. But let's just ignore that. Let's just pretend that isn't the case. All right. So what I'm actually going to go back over here in the material now is I'm just going to shove down that alpha and change it to alpha clip. So now the material is completely transparent. You could also do it so that it's not in the disabled in the viewport and it's disabled in the render. But I'm just doing the alpha because I can. So that's the way we're going to roll. So I'm going to put the cloth back on here. And I'm going to go over here to the physics. And we're going to bake it. Also, before you bake, just make sure that you take off the pin group. So that you can get the full effect of whatever is going to happen. Now, you're about to behold something most beautiful. And I just want you to know that I didn't change any of my settings, which means this is fantastic. So, I want you to know that this beautiful, beautiful thing that's happened here is because of collisions. So, you still... This is going to be the most amazing, most chic design ever. I really do believe that this belongs on, a design somewhere. I really do think so. So, in lieu of that fact, now I did go back here under my object of self-collisions and ditch my self-collisions while I'm at it. And if you'll excuse me while I do some more baking that'll take forever, I'll be back. Now, when we take off the self-collisions, you can tell, hey, how the collisions have now, underneath, now self-collisions have now stabilized a little bit. Now, of course, I do recommend that you add a little bit of pinning to the top of this in this particular case, which I will do here. Where is it? Oh, it's over here. Sorry, I'm turning down the radius here. Oh! Alright, so this should be, that way it's just, we're having a little bit right here. As a quick side note, before you do that, make sure that there's a hole in the sleeve on both sleeves. Otherwise, the cloth will get mangled because it needs to go, oh, hey, there's cloth here. Otherwise, it'll just jitter against it, which is absolutely hilarious. and I totally forgot about it, but just to note, be sure to do that. Now behold this glory. Now this is because I actually made the material to far to the mass, among other things. So we're going to make a few adjustments. So I'm going to come back and show you what's correct about my settings are. Alright, so to explain what I've done here is that this is the, I turned it to purple here, but I filled in the, this just using the F key, I filled in the sides of this right here, and I filled in underneath here, because we want to make sure that the collisions can't be messed with here. And so we've done that. I filled in the top here, and so that way, when the cloth and everything and it comes together, it doesn't have any problems. So here, now I'm not using any pinning with this, to be clear. So it's not getting the top of the head or anything right here. So I can improve this along with the collisions as well by adding the pinning that we were talking about. So I'll go ahead and do that here. But now you can see with the hole that I added here, we're having a little more cohesion. But we can continue to improve this by adding those small little changes as we continue through our product, through our project. I don't want to add a little bit, I don't want to add too much more time to this video, so I'm just going to leave it here just for the sake of the length, because I've gone on for a pretty, long time at this point. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them below. We will be going more into the finite little things with clothing and more tutorials. So thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it. I'm going to do a few little things here, and thank you again for watching, and hope you have a wonderful day.